הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת כולנו גם יחד. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Focusing your attention. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you.
When you say it in a singing voice, hopefully that eases the transition. There is always a risk in the middle of an opening in asking a room of incredible leaders to turn to one another and talk. And yet, it was a very intentional choice, so thank you for working with us to come back together, and we hope you now know one new face or maybe have deepened one new relationship, so thank you. We want to pause before we move into the next part of this session to acknowledge some of the really hard truths of this moment. Some of the truths that we will inevitably be bringing with us into this space. The realities of a post-10/7 world, the fear and concern of increased anti-Semitism, increased inter-Jewish conflict within our own country, and the existential dread and concern for our very democracy. This moment might make it easy for us as a community to be pulled toward fear, or to protect our own, or to narrow our communal focus. Right now, it might feel like we are being asked to walk a tightrope between the values of urgency and nuance and unity and equity. And we cannot, nor do we want to erase or pretend that these realities do not exist for each of us right now and as we create this space together over the next 24 hours.
And the rabbis teach that there are 10 kinds of songs we sing in our lives. There's one of heartbreak, one of courage, one of yearning and jubilance, and there's a song for protection, and there's also a fight song. But what song holds the full range of our hearts? What song gives us the permission to feel the full range of human emotions? The Talmud says that it's the hallelujah. The moment we are living in is a hallelujah kind of moment. So let's remember to sing as our inaugural Jewish Belonging Summit choir. That was our rehearsal and our performance, by the way. Let us be reminded to sing even when our soul's candle feels a little dim, and especially when our soul's candle feels a little dim.
We hope that this summit is a declaration that the Jewish communal nonprofit sector can and must lead in this moment with courage. We remain committed, even in this moment, to interrupting harmful norms, to centering those who are too often pushed to the margins, whose stories, experiences, and leadership we believe are essential to a thriving Jewish future. Each of us has a role to play in building a different future, one where all of us belong. This work is sacred, this work is urgent, and we are so grateful to be in it with you.
And this is the summit of today, but tomorrow we have to keep on climbing and to reach for the vision of a vibrant and flourishing community where all Jews and our loved ones feel a sense of belonging. And as the Pew Research Center shared in 2021, 94% of American Jews express pride in their Jewish identity. 85% feel a sense of belonging to the Jewish people. And 5 years ago, about 15% showed up on a regular basis. But we know today, based on the last data from Jewish Federation's most recent data on the surge, we have seen engagement grow to nearly doubled to 31%, the most that we've actually seen in American Jewish history. And with that said, the Pew reported that a striking 51% of Jews who had attended synagogue said that they feel little to no sense of belonging when they show up in those spaces. And that's without thinking about those with marginalized identities. identities that have been underserved or put onto the periphery. The 20% of American Jews who identify as Black, Latin, Asian, Sephardi, and Mizrahi. The 11% of American Jews who identify as LGBTQ. The 32% of American Jews who don't identify with any denomination. The 70% of American Jews who married someone from a different faith in the last 10 years. The 21% of American Jews who are living with significant economic precarity. And whether one's age, ability, gender, ethnicity, economic status, faith, Jewish religious affiliation, mental, physical, or emotional well-being, race, or sexuality, we must consider how our communities have left some out of this collective narrative. We must not look away at the sight of the pain, because how can we apply the medicine if we don't know where the pain is coming from? So may these next 24 hours and everything that comes next be the medicine that each of us needs and that the world so deeply needs.
So what do we mean by belonging? Our communities are made up of so many beautiful different identities and lived experiences. So we come to this room with different perspectives, visions, and even definitions of how we define the concept of belonging. During JPro, we learned that the incredible Idit Klein, CEO of Keshet, who we are honoring tonight, defines belonging as the feeling of being home.
For me, belonging is a feeling when your identities are celebrated, not in fractions, but in the wholeness of my layers. Belonging is when I see myself reflected, when the relationships are real, when the more time you spend in that place, you feel more integrated within yourself.
And my operating definition of belonging for some time now, from author Seth Godin, has been that people feel seen and valued when they show up, and they feel missed when they don't. Some of our visions of belonging in this room today will align. Some might challenge one another, and some may actually feel in direct tension or conflict. But we don't see that as a weakness of our Jewish communal landscape. In fact, it is a strength. This really is at the heart of the work. It's not about being unified every step of the way. It's about choosing to stay in conversation and creating space for complexity. It's even about being open to expanding our own understanding of belonging based on what we hear from one another over our time together. This summit is about doing the hard, messy, and deeply sacred work of building Jewish communities we all deserve, and doing it in relationship and in dialogue with one another.
We're now going to take a moment to bring a QR code up on the screen for a Mentimeter that we're about to do. So we would love if you would take out your handy-dandy phone, if you have one, hopefully, and just pull up the QR code. But in the meantime,
while you do that, and we hope you do it quietly and respectfully, we want to invite 3 of the incredible leaders among us today to stand and share the light that they are bringing to the field of Jewish communal belonging. So we will hear from Lauren Banister at Mazon, Adam Pollack of 18 Doors, and Rabbi Menachem, founder and chair of Kesher Families.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Lauren Banister, she, her, hers. I'm with Mazon, a Jewish response to hunger. We work in the United States and Israel to end hunger and its causes, especially around people who are underserved and underrepresented, especially in policy spaces. Mazon in Hebrew means nourish. Food is not just about calories, it's about nourishing your body and nourishing your soul. We come together around food at conferences and holidays with friends and family, and it fosters that sense of belonging. But it can also foster exclusion. Think of the kid who doesn't want to sit with a group of friends at lunch because he has to go into a different line to get his meal, or is eating different food because he's on the free and reduced lunch program. Food is our most basic need, and the levels of food insecurity in this country are unconscionable. And right now, and I mean literally right now, tomorrow, my colleagues in DC are talking to lawmakers about trying to convince them that we should not be cutting programs that allow people to feed themselves with dignity. And they should not be making decisions about who deserves to belong at the dinner table and in our grocery stores. So I work with Jewish communities to help foster that trust and that turn our shared values of caring for one another into action, to hear and speak out for our neighbors, friends, and families who are experiencing food insecurity. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Pollack. I'm the Chief Program Officer at 18 Doors, which used to be known as Interfaith Family, if you're not familiar with our name. Before I tell you about what we do, I want to tell you a little bit of my own story. Growing up as a gay kid in the 1980s, I received a lot of messages from the Jewish community and the larger society that being myself was not okay. And so over time, I decided to leave the Jewish community. I thought there was no place for me. And it took a very special mentor from a Hillel director at Muhlenberg College who saw me for who I was and said, there is a place for you here. And from that point, I decided to start to discover Jewish life again, Jewish learning, became a Jewish educator and a Jewish professional for the last 25 years. Most recently, actually, I'll go back a second. About 15 years ago, actually next Friday will be our anniversary, I married the love of my life, who's a person from another background. He was raised Christian, Lutheran, is not practicing at all right now, and thinks of himself as part of the Jewish community. I was told by the organized Jewish community that I was not a good model of a Jewish professional because I made that decision. I still, because I had that strong identity built over many years before that moment happened, decided to stick it out. It hasn't always been easy, and organizations like 18 Doors helps people like me, helps people who are falling in love with people from another background to help them make decisions that are meaningful to them and that reflect their own identity and their own life. We do that with couples and families directly, and we also do that and create communities of belonging with professionals from behind the scenes, so that no matter what door they're entering into Jewish life, there are people on the other side of that door who understand who they are, know how to interact with them, and how to build a lifelong journey for them in the future. The last thing I want to say about this conference in particular is that I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing so many of our partners here, and I just want to thank you all for your partnership in this important work of belonging today and into the future. We can't do this without you, so thank you very much.
I'm Menachem, and it is such a pleasure to be here with so many people who care about the Jewish people and keeping our Jewish brothers and sisters close. I am the chairman and the co-founder with my wife of Kesher Families. Kesher in Hebrew, of course, means a bond or a tie. And we work with families of individuals who are LGBTQ+ to make sure that the family remains together. Not only together, tied to each other, but also tied to God. And that is not a simple thing in the Orthodox community where we work. We work from the more modern Orthodox community and a little bit to the left, all the way through the Hasidic community and even beyond that. When my son was 15 years old, 15 years ago, he came out to my wife and I, to us. I was then we were leading a shul in Queens, and I was the dean of the seminary at Yeshiva University for the rabbis. It was not a simple position to be in. And when people saw that we had a connection to our son, they came to us in mass with basically many versions of one question. How do you balance your religious sensibilities, your traditional religious sensibilities, with the identity of your son? And we have explained to hundreds of families at this point, and to tens of thousands of people through speaking, that one doesn't need to choose between their child and God. Loving another Jew, and especially loving your own son, is the service of God, perhaps the most holy thing that we can do. And giving parents that empowerment is what Kesher Families is all about. There's so much to do, of course, in the LGBTQ space. We just heard another voice. So much of that is done with partners like Eshel, who deals with the individuals themselves in the Orthodox community and does advocacy for the community. Our job is pretty simple. We just want to hold the family together in one piece. We had too many people simply calling us to talk to us to remain individuals in this way. So with the help from the Schusterman Foundation, who are here, and we want to thank them, we were able to start Kesher Families. And in under 3 years, we've already met with over 250 families. And at least 100 families are coming to us a year with individual sessions to give them support, with group. And like Eshel has their Shabbaton for parents, we have a Shabbaton as well, I think a week later this year, next 2 weeks. And I'm very excited to be with you, to learn from you, and to see how we can include each other and love each other in the service of God together as Jews.
Thank you each so much for sharing your stories with us and for the work that you do in your communities and our communities and in partnership every day.
Amen to that. So in one word, how are you feeling right now? Wow. Okay, we're seeing it. Excited, tired, hopeful, anxious. See the full range here? All in one room. We could hold it. We could hold it. Interested. Connected. It's hard to tilt my head like this. Concerned. Concerned is right. Yeah. Energized. Amen. Exhausted. Whoa. Energized and exhausted. Can we hold it all? We could hold it all. It's a part of our responsibility in this work. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see the next slide. So where were you before this gathering? JPro 25, somewhere else. I can't even remember. You know, a part of this question is recognizing that we all have worlds and orbits, our own connective orbits. Some of times our orbits feel like they're going in the same direction. Other times we're coming in different places. And it's just a reminder as we show up in this space to sort of hold that some people are coming off of a 3-day conference. Others are coming off of a full life conference. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Let's go to the next one. Why are you here? Why are you here? And also, sorry if your answer is not on this, but why are you here? Is it to expand your knowledge of safety, respect, equity, and the field of Jewish belonging and apply it to your work? Is it to meet leaders, practitioners, and collaborators who are advancing safety, respect, equity, and Jewish belonging in their work? Is it to nourish yourself, recharge by basking in the beauty of community?
Yes.
Yes. Let's keep those intentions going and keep asking ourselves, why are we here? What's bringing us to this moment? And now, just for a few ones that go a little deeper, for the next slide, have you or your loved ones ever felt othered, disrespected, or unsafe in Jewish spaces? Yes, again, that reminder that when we say safety, respect, and equity, and Jewish communal belonging for all Jews and our loved ones, we really do mean that, because ultimately all of our experiences in our journey, unfortunately, we see from what's being shown here that no one's immune from how biases play out. Thank you. For the next slide, have you ever unintentionally been a part of othering someone else within a Jewish setting? Very real. I think, for this slide, and as we've been connecting on this, one, it's the reminder that we're all under construction. We're all on the journey of working on ourselves, working on becoming the best versions of ourselves. And ultimately, when we make mistakes, that doesn't mean that we should stop showing up. That doesn't mean we should stop doing the work. That doesn't mean we should stop trying to connect those connections with one another. And then finally, for the last of our Mentimeter experience, how do you currently define belonging? How do you currently define belonging? Wow, aspiration, beyond inclusion, being seen, heard, and valued, feeling wanted, knowing all parts of me are loved in my entirety, the feeling of being included and a part of the group, feeling at home, safety, when there are no questions about who you are. And I don't know if we could slide down on this slide. Does it move downward for us? Nice. Wanting to participate, a sense of having a place and feeling valued, heart emoji. Everyone feeling seen and valued. You noticing that? Seen, valued. Thank you.
So thank you all for sharing. We are going to collect these definitions, and we will make sure that everyone who's here and has contributed to them gets the full list of these definitions after the conference. As we begin this summit and understanding and getting the chance to see our beautiful own definitions of what belonging means to us, it's very important that we create a culture together of community for how we want to be in relationship over the next 24 hours. So we have 5 things that we want to invite you to keep in mind and heart as we create belonging vibes for our gathering together. I'll do 1 and 2. I'll do 3. Number 1, we are all students and teachers. Everything is learning. We ask you to be open to hearing different visions of belonging, to know when your voice is needed and when to take a step back, to recognize that holding multiple truths is a belonging leadership competency. Number 2, you are here for a reason. We invite you to lean into your vulnerabilities, to find moments for relational connection, and to respect the lived experiences of belonging that are in this room, to lead with curiosity, seeking to understand, and embracing a posture of inquiry over one of advocacy.
Number 3, be trustworthy and expect trust in return. Please silence your cell phones. That wasn't number 3. Be trustworthy and expect trust in return. Feel safe enough to bring your full selves, knowledge, and experiences. We do not have press here, just for the record, off the record. We are not live streaming. So please do not use any recording devices of your own unless that person and you have already discussed that. We want people to be able to try on different ideas and ask new questions and hopefully drop some of those filters. And so as we ask for mutual trust in this space to support each other and being able to show up, assume best intentions with honesty and also offering that in your own way.
Number 4, our words and our actions matter. We want to invite you to familiarize yourself with the code of conduct. It's in the Whova app, and also everyone signed it as a part of your registration, but it's helpful and worth reviewing. And it's grounding our behavioral expectations for this summit. If you witness or are involved in an incident that violates the code of conduct or our communal norms, Dr. Gila Benchamal and Dr. Dietra Reiser, if you can please stand, are here to speak with you. And finally,
Number 5, safety, respect, equity, and communal belonging isn't about politics. It's about people. Just because something is politicized, it doesn't mean it's about politics. Our humanity, our identities, who we love, who our ancestors are, that shouldn't be political. Although we are living in politically volatile times, the Jewish Belonging Summit is not about politics, it's about people. And so we want to be sensitive to the ideological diversity in the room, and also we want to be able to stay focused on the deep work that's needed in our communities, and also ensuring that we could create a space that feels safe and connected for everybody in this space.
And so, before we introduce our next speakers, we want to share that this summit is a product of an innovative partnership between SRE Network and the Center for Jewish Belonging. And in our short time planning this conference, it has really deepened into a relationship and a deep partnership. Our two organizations have their own voice. We have our own priorities. We have our own approaches. But we've come together out of a shared commitment to a simple, powerful, and sometimes challenging truth, which is that safety, respect, equity, and belonging are not optional. They're just not. They're foundational to the future of Jewish communal life that we are all trying to build. And I want to share, in terms of leaning into our own vulnerabilities that we just asked of all of you, that planning this had plenty of moments of difference of opinions about the best path forward, about the right language to use, about how to hold all of our complexities with care. And still, we're here, we made it, it's happening, we're at the table, and we're in partnership. And it's because we know that we and our organizations and you all are here to build something that is way bigger than any one of our organizations. And it doesn't mean there will be perfect agreement, but it does mean that we have a shared responsibility, that we can share each other's courage and a willingness to continue this work, building a Jewish communal landscape where everyone is truly welcome and where we know what that means and what that looks like, and we and our loved ones feel it. Rabbi Isaiah and I are very inspired by the communal leaders who are behind the work of our organizations and who have modeled this collaborative approach and who we are very excited to invite to speak with us in just a moment. We are honored to introduce two influential leaders, personal mentors, and really the catalysts behind this work. We welcome to the stage Lisa Eisen, co-president of the Charles and Lynn Schusterman Family Philanthropies, and Eric Fingerhut, President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America.
Love the walkout song. Awesome. Well, it's so great to look out and see all of you, and to be part of welcoming you to the first ever Jewish Belonging Summit. I want to start with gratitude, with a big thank you to Isaiah and to Rachel and to the wonderful teams at SRE and JFNA for putting this innovative summit together and for the important work that you do every single day. So let's give them a hand, please. And I also want to thank each and every one of you in this room for being here with us, for caring, and whether you're Jewish or not, no matter what your background, you belong here with us. You're meant to be here, and we welcome you, and we're so grateful that you're here. So you heard who we are. I'm also the board chair, founding board chair of SRE, very proud of that. And we're also supporters of JFNA's Center for Jewish Belonging, and I feel very at home. And what we want to do here as part of kicking off this conference is share a bit about what's in our hearts and in our minds about belonging, and queue up what we hope are going to be a series of meaningful conversations over the next 24 hours. And thank you to those folks who already shared very powerful stories. Everyone sharing their stories here is really, really valuable. So let me start by underlining how crucial I believe that this work is. Diversity is the warp and the weft of our communal fabric. It's what makes the Jewish people strong and innovative and interesting and deep. And we are people who have multiple identities, and we are a people of multiple identities. And our community should reflect the breadth, the beauty, the richness, of who we all are. This is central to our mission at Schusterman and to many of our grantees, and we have long been committed to making the Jewish community more welcoming and diverse. I've been around for a very, very long time. I've been at Schusterman for 24 years. And back in 2007, I was in Jerusalem with Lynn Schusterman. And they announced the Jewish People Planning Institute, JPPI, was holding the global gathering to plan the Jewish future. And we looked at the attendees and all the speakers, and it was almost exclusively white male executives. And Lynn Schusterman said, no way, no way. They are not planning my future, our future. We're going to do our own conference. And she and Angelica Berry and other female philanthropists got together and planned the Conference for Change. And it was about advancing LGBTQ leadership, women's leadership, Jews of color in the community and their leadership, and making our community more inclusive and welcoming. And that was 18 years ago. And so I guess this isn't actually the first Belonging Summit. It's the second. And since that time, we have funded Keshet and many other organizations to try to make our community a much more welcoming place where everyone can feel at home. So we've made a lot of progress in those 18 years, but our work is so far from complete. And the stakes are even higher today. At a time where we don't feel safe, many of us don't feel safe as Jews or others in this country or in this world, it's all the more important that we create a community where people feel welcome, where they feel included, where they feel they have a safe harbor to be themselves. And we have to build those spaces. Safety, respect, and equity are not back burner issues. Despite the backlash, despite the messaging that's going on in our country, they are not back burner issues. Inclusiveness in Jewish life is not a back burner issue. The more we bring talented people into the fold, show them respect, empower them to shape what happens next, the stronger and better our future is going to be. And ultimately, this is how we're going to emerge out of this difficult moment in Jewish history and create a more productive and joyful future for all of us.
Of course, easier said than done, though, right?
Yes. Eric, it's easier said than done. What would you like to say about it?
First of all, I echo all the wonderful thanks that Lisa shared to all of you for being here and to the organizers and planners. And I also want to add a special word of thanks to the Schusterman Foundation and to Lisa Eisen in particular for their leadership. There isn't anything good happening in the Jewish community that the Schusterman Foundation and Lisa Eisen aren't at the forefront of. So Lisa, once again, thank you. Look, I think that from the perspective of the Jewish federations, and I have one of my wonderful colleagues here, our host, Andrew Kushner, who's the CEO of the Federation in Baltimore, who's been hosting us. You're probably ready for us to all leave town, right, Andrew? We've been here for a few days. But we begin by thinking about this question from a local community perspective, which is our main responsibility, right? Federations are meant to be helping organize Jewish communities to ensure that Jewish community is flourishing, to ensure that it's taking care of the needs of the community, those especially who need extra help, to make sure that we're educating our community, to make sure that we're representing our community in the broader civic spaces, and also that we're doing our share from each community to support Jews around the world. And all of that is a huge agenda. It's a huge amount of work. And it's just simply impossible to think of how we can fulfill our missions in each community where Jewish federations are organized unless we include everyone in that work. And the idea that we could somehow care for the community and do all that's needed without, and say to you and you and you and you, we don't need you, or you're not welcome, or you're not part of this, it's crazy, right? We don't fulfill this mission, which gets harder and harder all the time as the challenges by subtracting. We fulfill this mission by attracting. So if you can then zoom out from 146 federations led by incredibly talented and hardworking people like Andrew, and made up of many of the professionals who were here these last few days, and for those of you who stayed for today, thank you for your work. What is then the Jewish Federations of North America, our umbrella? How do we think about this work? And very simply put, our job is to help federations be the most welcoming and inclusive they can possibly be, so they can achieve the essential mission. And that's where the Center for Jewish Belonging comes in, and where my unbelievable friend and colleague, Rabbi Isaiah Rothstein, comes in. We literally called Isaiah and said, we know that we're not doing everything that we need to do to support our federations and our communities, and to partner with national organizations and all those others that are represented in this room. Would you come work with us and help us build something? And the Center for Jewish Belonging is really the result of that work. So back to your immediate question, Lisa, about easier said than done. You said we wanted to share what's in our hearts and in our minds. What I've just shared is sort of the practical day-to-day work. But I was thinking back when you asked that question to many of you know, because I know many of you from the days at working at Hillel, and I had a great colleague and teacher. Some of you know Shelley Kadar, who's now with the Jewish Agency in Israel, and I was talking to Shelley. She's an amazing educator. I was talking to Shelley one day and said, I'm stumped. I don't know whether I should use the phrase big tent or not. Is that helpful? Does it actually advance the conversation, or is it just trite and cliche? And her answers always stuck with me. She said, of course you should use it. And she said, here's why. She said, a tent is, think about what a tent is. It's a piece of canvas, and it's 4 poles. She said, if you have just the canvas without the pole, you don't have a tent, right? It's just a piece of canvas. She said, now think about it put together. If the poles are too close together, then the thing collapses, right? The canvas falls on the ground, and it doesn't function as a tent. The only way a tent works is if you have the canvas and the poles, and they're pulled as far apart as you possibly can, so that the tent can be as wide as it possibly can be. So, but that's not even the end of the story, because then you have to keep the flaps open so that people can see inside the tent, know what's going on, be transparent about what you're doing, but also feel welcome to come and join the conversation, the community that's in. So I've kept it with me, and I wonder, Lisa, as we're thinking about if it works for you too and for others here, how do we think about that big tent analogy today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Before I answer it, I do want to just acknowledge how difficult this work really is. I know because we are at Schusterman doing this work internally ourselves, and my partners in that work are actually here in the room today. I'm not going to embarrass them by shouting them out, but we have been on a multi-year journey of trying to make our organization welcoming and inclusive, a place where everyone is seen, valued, heard, and a place of belonging. And it's messy, and it's difficult, and it takes getting uncomfortable, and we're working on, in addition to a time where we have to think about physical safety, psychological safety, and what can we do to be a better organization where everyone feels like they can fully contribute their talent. So I know how hard it is. In terms of the tent, I agree that it should be as wide as possible. And that there need to be tent poles. We do have to have boundaries because we have to stand for some things. And I also would like to say that I think the Jewish people has always been a little bit fuzzy about who's in and who's out. And I think that's actually wise. I think that actually gives us some elasticity, and there's wisdom in it. We're a family. We're driven both by our tribal, our tribal instincts, but also by this prophetic vision and imperative to make the world better for all people. And that holding together of the universal and the particular, we're able to hold all of that, and I think that makes it stronger, and I think our ability to do that is more important now than it has ever been. So really more than red lines, I think what we need to focus on is speaking to each other with respect. We need to focus on respecting our differences and learning from each other and recognizing that our diversity is our strength. And I know that some people say the tent, that pluralism is being stretched so thin that it's going to break. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think I like to quote Michal Biton, who's brilliant, what she calls the Sephardi approach to this, which is set up your tent poles, be very, very clear about who you are, what are your values, what are your principles, and then be as radically welcoming as possible within that. And someone can come for Shabbat dinner, and they can be part of the family. It doesn't mean that if they, don't uphold some of the key principles of what it means to be Jewish, that they should be platformed, but they should be welcome, and they should have a place at our table. And we should listen to each other. And so I think in terms of these difficult wedge issues that we faced, I'm a lifelong centrist. I believe in making the middle as broad and strong as possible, and that way the extremes, who often tend to be the loudest, hopefully will be tempered. And I really want to say that I think we need to create a Jewish civic space where we can wrestle with issues with grace and respect, that we can have machloket, l'shem shamayim, debate for the sake of heaven, because that is a feature, not a bug, of Judaism. And we need to approach each other with as much curiosity and as little judgment as we can.
So, first of all, I thought you were going to say about the great Michal Biton that she said there should be polls, and we should be radically welcoming, and let's eat. That's my understanding of the Sephardi approach and the Ashkenazi approach. So we should look. I really do want to underscore the point that you're making about civility and about dialogue. I don't think we can overstate how much we're screaming at each other in the civic spaces and even within our community. It's really beyond anything that any of us should tolerate. Somebody says something we don't agree with, and thanks to social media and thanks to everybody being their own publisher these days, everybody's got their Substack account, or they've got whatever they need. We instantly go on the attack, and I don't know how. Talk about from earlier in our conversation about how hard this is. I don't know how we're ever going to make the kind of progress that this summit is designed, and both of our organizations are designed to make, until we stop screaming at each other and start listening again and engaging in civil dialogue with those we disagree with. I noted, Isaiah, in your opening when you were talking about the codes of conduct here, you said assume best intentions. And you would think that that's something that we as communal leaders should live by, but when it's so absent from the communal dialogue, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget. I actually remember, I guess I'm telling only Hillel stories here today, but I remember one time when I was at Hillel and I was in some controversy. It was probably about Israel, I'm assuming, and a student confronted me very aggressively about it. And by the way, I thought he was great. He was like brilliant and made great arguments. But at the end, of his arguments, he said, and I know you're just doing this because of your donors and because of the politics and I stopped him and I said, wait a minute. I just listened to you for 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. I assumed that the opinions you were sharing with me were your opinions. because that's what you had learned and that's what, based on your research, and that's what you believe. Why do you assume that the opinions that I'm sharing are because of some other hidden, some other hidden cause that only you, could divine my intention? So
The evil funders.
yeah, right. It's always and that, of course they weren't referring to this, but no, so I really think this is critical. I always am reminded of the great teaching. The story of the Machloket, the Shem Shemayim. There was a dispute among our scholars, and they couldn't agree, so they looked to the heavens for the answer. There's Hillel and Shammai, and the answer was both are right. Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim Chaim, but the law is with Hillel. Why? Because they listened to the other side, and they even recited the opinions of the other side before it. So I really do believe that we have to do this. The other thing I'll just add, Lisa, to this conversation about how hard this is this really takes constant work. I sometimes think that we feel like we instituted the new policy, or I hired a great guy like Rabbi Rothstein, and now I can move on, right? Because we've taken care of that, right? And now on to the next issue. And I just want to remind all of us that even if we solved every problem today, we're going to have to solve it again tomorrow and the day after and the day after, because there's always going to be new people coming into our community. Even if we said yesterday, you're welcome to somebody, they didn't know. The next group that came the next day didn't know it. Somebody who comes the first time and is welcome and comes back the second time and nobody recognizes them. So I'll tell you one little quick story, Lisa, and then I'll shut up. And that is that I was for a couple of years I had the worst job in the Jewish world. I was president of a synagogue, and I actually became president. I hadn't lived in the community quite that long, but they needed somebody, so I stepped in. And I don't know, I was a couple months into my tenure as synagogue president, and I got a letter from a longtime member resigning from the synagogue. So I did the obvious thing. I picked up the phone. I called him immediately. I said, "Why are you resigning from the synagogue?" And he said, "Eric, I've been coming to this synagogue every Shabbat for almost 20 years. Every Shabbat I've been sitting in the 6th row from the back, 2 seats in from the aisle, every week." He said, "I wasn't there for the last 2 months, and nobody noticed, and nobody called me." Of course, he'd been sick. He'd been in the hospital. You can imagine how I felt then and how I still feel today telling you this story. But this is somebody who's been with us for 20 years. So we have to keep this work up every day. So how do we build, through this conference and through the work of SRE and through the work of the Center for Jewish Belonging and the Jewish Federation and everybody involved in this room and all the organizations, how do we build something that becomes part of the infrastructure? You called it the warp and the whoop. How do we build something that's permanently part of our infrastructure? Because there's always going to be somebody next who doesn't belong, or somebody who doesn't feel that they belong, or somebody new who just comes to the community, or somebody who's just radically had to have a change in their lifestyle, or something that has happened. Even somebody who you've known all along and something's changed for them, but you don't know what's changed for them. Right? So this is, I think, this
is an ongoing work. This is day-to-day practice. As the rabbi said, we're all under construction. We all have made mistakes on this journey. We're all still making mistakes, as the Mentimeter said. Yeah. I do want to share one thing before we close, which is I had the opportunity a couple months ago to interview Van Jones. And we were speaking about the Black-Jewish Alliance and what an important role it played in shaping American democracy and how important it is right now for the future of American democracy. And he made some really important points that I think are relevant for us here in this room. And he said, we have to develop the muscle memory that will allow us to turn toward each other rather than on each other. We have to be more sophisticated than those who are trying to divide and destroy us. And we have to talk to each other, not about each other. And He's so inspiring, but I think we all need to develop new muscles, new skill sets. We need to shift our mindset to turn toward each other. We need each other now. And as I've said so many times, the diversity of our people is our strength, and we have to rely on each other at this very, very difficult moment. So we all stood together at Sinai. We're all part of this people and of humanity, and we all need to stand by each other during these difficult, pivotal times. And so I hope that over the next 24 hours that you all will learn from each other, you'll approach each other with curiosity and learning and grace and respect, and that we will then go out and model that for our entire community. I wish you a great conference, and thank you again for being here.
Wonderful.